Thank you all for being here. Good to see you. It is working. Okay. It's a great pleasure to be here presenting my studies, my recent research on environmentally sensitive consumer behaviors, which is my main focus area, research area of interest. I'm also interested in business sustainability, sustainable strategy development for businesses, green consumption, green consumer behavior, green marketing, green supply chain management, where environmental management and business management connects. That's my mainly research area. Let's start quickly, but before I start, I would like to define what I mean when I say environmentally sensitive consumer behaviors. Those are the efforts by individuals to limit their damaging actions that can harm the physical and natural environment. So when I say environmentally sensitive consumer behaviors, which I use interchangeably with pro-environmental behaviors, green behaviors, sustainable behaviors. There are many different names in the literature, but they all mean the same thing. It is interesting that in this room, we are all coming from different regions of the world. We have slightly different research areas, but what we have in common is we are all consumers. We purchase goods and services constantly, and after we purchase these goods and services, which we call in the marketing literature as acquisition, we use these goods and services. After the usage stage is over, we dispose these goods, either into the ocean, or in some cases in our neighbor's backyard, or in some cases, if it's possible, we recycle them. In every stage that we go through as consumer, we have an impact on the environment, on different species, on ourselves impact, but overall we have a tremendous impact on Earth systems, how they function. The Earth systems are connected to each other, and we are constantly changing this balance, especially over the 100 years or so with industrial revolution. Our impact on the environment increased tremendously. In fact, scientists today are considering how we measure geologic time because of this significant impact of human behavior. I wanted us to see this human behavior and environment relationship within a different graph. This graph also is showing my research interests. Here in this particular study, I'm focusing on the consumer side. These are two circles that I'm going to be focusing on today. Purchasing goods, services, using them, and then recycling or disposing them. So these black lines are showing this particular study's focus. However, I'm also working on, I have some studies on the business side, government organizations side of the environmental actions that can impact the environment. Let's move on. Over the years, scientists, psychologists, sociologists, they came up to the similar conclusion that if we can alter those behaviors, human behaviors that impact the environmental well-being, we can partially have overcome some environmental deterioration we are facing today. There are two environmental psychologists. They have very interesting studies, Steg and Willeg. They are suggesting that promoting pro-environmental behaviors would be possible by following through 4 stages. First, we need to choose the behavior that we want to alter, and then we can examine factors causing those specific behaviors. After going through the second stage, we can intervene to change those behaviors and their antecedents. And after doing this, we can evaluate the effects on behavior itself, antecedents, as well as environmental quality and quality of life. And after this evaluation, we can go back and alter what is necessary. in this type of study, specifically in this study, my main research question is, why do people act pro-environmentally? And what are the determinants of these kinds of behaviors, which was the second step here. Why do we want to answer this question? Because there are many techniques we can come up with in order to promote pro-environmental behaviors. We can provide information, we can give instructions, we can provide feedback, or we can make it more easier, more convenient for consumers, these kind of behaviors. Or we can create incentives, in fact. However, which type of technique would be better for which type of behaviors is still unknown, and we need more research in this area. There are some research gaps in environmental behavior literature. One of them is the focus on one type of behavior. There are limited comparisons also, and in some cases, in most of the cases, measurement problems are there for environmental behavior, clustering all different types of behaviors into one category. And there is another gap, is the emotions could be important. It has been suggested, but not that many studies looking at emotions. There are just a few studies looking at car usage and how that affect our emotions, and not that many studies other than that. And integration of different theories could be important in this area of research, but again, there are limited studies that are integrating different disciplines, theories, concepts, and putting them together to understand these types of behaviors. And in this study, I'm using integrative perspective, using different disciplines, and put them together, and I'm trying to develop a conceptual model to understand environmentally sensitive behaviors. Again, researchers who are looking at the issue, environmental psychologists, suggest that potential predictors of environmental behaviors should be multidimensional, based on many different factors, not based on only one factor, such as like gender, age. It should be multidimensional. And the researchers who are looking at the issue, they are following different research perspectives. First line of research is looking at from more economic side of view, data economic side of view, and they are suggesting that consumers weigh costs and benefits of a certain behavior. If there are more benefits, they perform that certain behavior. Second line of research is looking at the issue from the moral and normative concerns. The third line of research looking at the issue from affective motives, the role of emotions can play. And the fourth line of research is the integrative perspective, as I mentioned earlier, to understand environmental motivations. They put together different concepts. And it has been suggested in the literature by Steck and Villak again, goal framing theory could be, by Lindenberg, can be a good theory to understand environmental sensitive behaviors. Okay, what is this goal framing theory? It was also in the title. I think I should explain that. So the theory suggests that we all have three overarching goals. Hedonic goals, feeling better, normative goals to act appropriately, or gain goals to guard or improve our resources. So these three goals are active in any given moment, but one of them is framed. That is our main goal we want to achieve. The other ones are in the background, and we act based on that framed one. Let me give you an example. This is a hypothetical example. For example, I love driving. And if there's a decision making in terms of how I'm going to commute to work, since I love, my main goal is the hedonic goal that is framed, I choose driving to work rather than taking public transportation, which can be cheaper, but my gain goal is in the background, so I don't act based on that goal frame. Let's move on, and as I told you, it seems to be suitable to use in environmental behavior studies, this theory, but it has not been yet used in this domain. When I went through different disciplines and different theories, I found out that I can use these three theories as underlying theories of goal framing. Theory of planned behavior by Eisen can be used as for a game goal frame. Values, beliefs, norms theory can focus on normative goal frames, and theory of effect can focus on hedonic, feeling better goal frame. Let's look at the first theory. This is theory of planned behavior. It has been used widely in all kinds of disciplines, and it is suggesting that we choose alternatives with highest benefits against lowest costs. Second theory is values, beliefs, norms theory by Stern et al. This theory is suggesting our values that we carry is affecting us how much we have environmental beliefs, and that leads to pro-environmental personal norms that would lead to the actual behavior. Last theory, as underlying theory of goal framing, is theory on effective motives by Russell. This has been used also widely in consumer behavior studies, but I have not seen in environmental behavior studies. So I adopted that as an underlying theory of goal framing. It is suggesting that how we feel about a certain behavior can impact us to have positive or negative attitudes towards that behavior. That would lead to the intention, which we consider the immediate antecedent of the behavior, and then that would lead to the actual behavior. This is the model I developed. You might think that how I came up with this model, how did I put these together, these three underlying theories? This is how I did. These are the black dotted lines. Those are the variables that are coming from effect theory. The red ones, the inside of these red lines, those are the variables that are coming from theory of planned behavior, and the green ones, those are the variables coming from values, beliefs, norms theory. Okay, and this is the model. In this model, all these relationships are considered to be positive. Only from egoistic values to environmental concern, that relationship to be considered to be negative. So if we have high egoistic values, we have lower environmental concern. We care more about ourselves than the environment. Okay, I don't think I can go through each one of these, but if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. Okay? Because I heard the beep. That's 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes. Okay. And after I developed the model, I had to categorize the behavioral outcome dependent variable. Because as I told you, there's a research gap in terms of how we categorize the environmental behavior itself, and I adopted from consumer behavior literature, from consumer behavior processes, these 3 stages, the last 3 stages, because those have the most impact on the environment, purchase, usage, and post-use behavior. So I have 3 behaviors I categorized them as. Okay, and this is an example, quick example I wanted to give because my presentation was too abstract. I just talked about theories, and I just wanted to show you how we can adapt this, how we can put this into the real life. This is an example from one of the largest collectors, processors of recovered paper in Carolinas, a company advertisement. What they are doing here, they are trying to give some information to the consumers. They are saying, if you recycle, you will reduce waste, you will protect wildlife, you will prevent global warming, reduce water pollution, and they explain exactly how it will happen. So they want to inform consumers. What they are trying to do here, I'm sure they did some surveys, they found out that, okay, I can show it here, awareness of consequences can be an impact on, and we can change the consumer behavior if we impact this, and then the consumer can feel and ascribe more responsibility to themselves because they would know the consequences of their actions. So that's what they are trying to do here, but we can conduct studies, more surveys, and find out how consumers being impacted by these different variables and try to change them accordingly using different techniques. I just wanted to show you one example here with advertisement. So to conclude, integrative perspective seems to be appropriate to understand environmental sensitive consumer behaviors. Here I used goal framing theory, and I adopted different theories from different disciplines because we need different disciplines help to be able to understand environmental behaviors. Similar to all other areas in sustainability, we need collaborative work. And I found out that these 12 variables would be important to examine. And I also categorize purchase usage and post-use as environmental behavior. And we can conduct some comparative studies, and we can try to understand if these three environmental sensitive purchase, usage, and post-use behaviors are mostly depend on moral considerations, feelings, or self-interest motives. I think that would be an important study. I would like to thank you all, and I hope I was
So please remember, if we all help and do a little bit, it will make a big difference.